and control her insulin with insulin. So she was all over the place, and she ended up, you know, having a convulsion, going to the hospital. And she came to me, and we started, and she does a home prick test. She has a little kit where she can, you know, test her blood sugar level. And I found that after her breakfast in the morning, her blood sugar was jumping up to about 280 to 300. And her breakfast was literally, she was doing some eggs or egg whites, and she would do 2 slices of rye toast with it. And she'd put some nut butter on the rye toast, which is high fat, a little bit of protein, but still it would jump up. We took out the rye toast, and her blood sugar stayed stable at 120. So you have to, you know, kind of be a super sleuth or a Sherlock Holmes and go, okay, well, on the glycemic index, and this is an index that has been created for people who are hyper, hypo, or diabetic. The glycemic index relationship of foods means that a food on a scale of 0 to 100 has, you know, so many grams of sugar. So you're talking like 100%, 50%, 0%. Fruits and vegetables and high fiber foods and proteins and fats are down in the 10s, the 20s, and the 30s. They're very low on the glycemic index. So they encourage insulin to be more stable. Whereby if you consume foods that are high in the index, and that even includes rices and breads, you know, breads are in the 70s, rices are in the 50s and 60s, oatmeal's in the 50s and 60s, bananas are in the 90s, carrots are in the 80s. These are what we call high glycemic foods. These high glycemic index foods will knock your blood sugar up and then drop you right down, take you up and drop you down. And anything that's processed that doesn't contain fiber will bring your blood sugar way up and then drop you way down. So it's important to balance. And when you look at carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, you know, your whole grains, your rices and your legumes and beans and potatoes, we have an index that goes this way. We go from 0 with those healthy foods, because they're live foods primarily and they're high in fiber, to the complex carbohydrates, which are in the 50s and 60s. Those have to be eaten with proteins and oils to stabilize them.
I see.
So if I took a meat, like a piece of chicken, which is an index of 15 about, and I mix it with a high index food, which is maybe 80, add those 2 indexes together, you get 95. But divide it by 2, you pull the total index, glycemic index, down to 42.5.
I see.
Which makes it readily available to the body. You stabilize your insulin, and you feel great after you eat it. You don't have any drops or rises.
I see. So I find that amazing. You talk about being a super sleuth, but taking the rye out and then it dropping that way. I think that's fascinating. That's interesting. So the insulin went awry. I had to get one in. I mean, my goodness, we were all so serious.
Her insulin went awry. That's so cute. That's very good. It did. It went awry. It went way awry.
All right. What dietary approaches are needed to control diabetes?
Well, the first thing to look at for my diabetic clients is they need to learn how to eat properly. And what is properly? You know, eating, first of all, 2 times or even 3 times a day if you're diabetic won't cut the ice. I mean, you need to consume at least feedings like a baby, like I said before, every 3 hours is optimal. And balancing your proteins to fats and carbohydrates. Now, I know that people who watch this show consistently know what a good oil is. This is a good oil. This good oil here comes from flaxseed, sunflower, sesame, pumpkin, and borage oils. These oils are combined into an oil in a bottle.
I think you told us before, never heat this and take about 1 to 2 tablespoons or teaspoons?
Well, it depends how big you are, but I tell most people they can handle, most of the time, I don't care what your size or weight, you can handle 2 teaspoons 3 times a day. Use it raw, drizzle it on your food. You know, some people like to drink it straight, I don't know why, but drizzle it on your food and it will blend with the food and stabilize insulin. Proteins do the same thing. So your lean fish and your chicken and your turkey and even your organic beefs, buffalo, venison, you know, quail, things like that. All of those red meats are very low in saturated fat and they're high in essential oils. They're exercised, you know, they run around and they fly and they move and they're low in fat. So they're very healthy for you. And then you need to make sure you're consuming fiber in your diet. And Americans, again, we talked in our last show about how no one eats fiber or enough fiber. Everyone's consuming processed foods, so we have very low fiber intake. You need to consume at least 30 grams of fiber a day. Now, may I caution our viewing audience, if you're constipated, don't do that. Not right away. Don't do that.
Okay, don't do that. Okay.
You will have fur balls, and you will be in big trouble. So you need to ease into fiber. You need to bring fiber up slowly, and if you're going to consume more protein and more fiber, you better drink water. Or you have nothing to break those different macronutrient food groups down.
So the animals that exercise and move around more, this is a thing that you should...
The wild gamey animals, yes.
Are good to eat, and that's good.
Very good.
They have the kind of oils in it.
Right. They have
I saw a flying buffalo
essential.
once, but I was drinking a different kind of oil. I don't know what that meant.
Where were you?
Oh, well.
What trip were you on? Yes, buffalo is great. Excellent. He's a Roman boy. He's out roaming around.
Now, tell us something about the avoidance of things. I mean, like, what do you want us not to...
to stay away from?
To stay away from, like...
Saturated fats you should stay away from always, always, always. I mean, you know, your saturated fats can be problematic because it actually impedes the production of many different hormones, and it kind of like, it's like mud in the system. It just mucks things up. And unfortunately, the only fats people get, like I had a new guy who came, or client who came in today, and sweet gentleman, and he showed me his diet, and he was 145 pounds.
I thought you would tell me he showed you your glucose level, and this made him
well, his glucose was actually very low. His glucose was 68, so he was very low. His cholesterol was very low. His triglycerides were very low. But what we had was a young man who was very, very, very hypoglycemic. I mean, very. And he was 145. His body fat was 10%, and he ate about 2,200 calories a day. But they were all 80% to 90% were carbohydrates. So it's like he was very lean, and when you're lean, you can eat more because you have a faster metabolism generally. So, but he was doing all carbohydrates. He ate like 6 bagels a day. I mean, he had just a bad diet. And I looked at his fat intake, and he was eating Swiss cheese, cream cheese, and he did this, what he called plastic fat, which is a no-fat fat. I'm like, and you're right, it is plastic fat. It's all chemicals and fake fat. So. I told him, I said, what you need to do to stabilize this is to consume more good oils and eat more protein. He was doing maybe 5 ounces of protein a day. He was getting possibly 35 grams of protein a day, and a man at 145 pounds, or woman, needs about 98 grams of protein a day.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So he was getting half the protein he needed. But if you're not getting protein and you're not getting good oils, you're what? Hungry. Gotta eat. You're like, give me more food. So you're going to eat more food, and the food tends to be carbohydrates, which knocks your blood sugar upside down. So it's important to know that.
I have some clients that smoke cigarettes, things like that, but they come in and they say, but I take spirulina. I mean, does that help at all? I mean, is it what?
Spirulina is real good. It's a powder that helps to regulate insulin. There are many things that actually help to regulate insulin. Again, fiber sources like oat bran and artichoke flour are wonderful. A tablespoon a day, you know, sprinkled on your food or taken in water would really assist people in regulating insulin production.
Oh, I see.
That would be great. I mean, I have a whole list here, and I'd love to go into this a little bit, but the first thing people need to know is they need to consume 5 to 6 feedings a day at regular intervals, and that would be every 3 to 3.5 or 4 hours. So you are basically eating breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. And if you're extremely, really low energy in the morning, that means your blood sugar is probably really dropping in the morning, so, or during the course of the night. So you must eat a high-protein breakfast. Don't skip breakfast,
Don't
folks.
skip breakfast.
You've got to have breakfast. Yeah, that's really, really important.
We got about 5 more minutes. I'd love for you to give us some, finish that up with, some dietary tips.
Okay, good. Lose the coffee. Coffee will knock your insulin levels and your blood sugar all over the place. Not a good idea. No one likes hearing that, but you know what? It's the worst. When you drink coffee, the floodgates open in the body. The pancreas produces tons of insulin because it's been falsely stimulated. So the insulin surges in, rises very high, and then it drops very low. And you need that next cup of coffee to get that insulin surge back up.
I see.
And what you really need is food. So never, ever, ever take, you know, things like spirulina and things like that on an empty stomach. Make sure you always have food present in the gut. Always.
I see.
I would say, what else? High fiber foods, water, fresh fruits and vegetables. Consume at least 3 pieces of fruit a day and at least 4 cups of cooked or steamed vegetables a day, or 8 cups of raw. Ha! It's a lot of fiber. That will help to stabilize you too. And you'll lose weight eating that way because you're not doing the doughy foods. And remember, Kurt, the doughy foods make people doughy. And the doughy foods knock your insulin all over the place, or your glycemic index all over the place. That's problematic. Zinc is really good. L-carnitine, amino acids for people like L-carnitine are wonderful. I want to tell people not to take fish oil caps because that raises your blood sugar more often than not. So if anyone's taking EPA oils, lose the EPA oils. Okay, that's important. Very good. Good to know that. Watch out for B1, B3, and vitamin C. Those 3 nutrients, okay, those supplements, if you take those in high enough doses, will actually raise your blood sugar too.
Oh, I see.
So watch out for vitamin B1, B3, and excessive amounts of vitamin C. And that generally means about 4,000 to 5,000 milligrams a day of C. Cysteine, C-Y-S-T-E-I-N-E, breaks down insulin and makes it less available to the body. So that's another B complex. If you're taking that, lose it. L-carnitine, again, is a stabilizer for insulin. That's a free-form amino acid. It's found in animal meats. Or you can take it as a supplement. Many people take it to burn fat when they're exercising. And I would say take chromium picolinate, at least 400 micrograms a day, and zinc at least 50 to 75 milligrams a day.
I see.
Those will all help.
My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Did I forget anything? Oh, foods that stabilize your blood sugar. Soybeans, your veggies, cheeses, egg yolk, garlic is wonderful.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I always tell people, for insulin problems or any kind of autoimmune problem, go ahead and take garlic.
Okay.
And make sure you do your essential fatty acids, okay? Ginseng teas lower blood pressure, but don't take ginseng if you have high blood pressure. I mean, will lower your blood sugar, but don't take it if you have high blood pressure.
I see.
It's a problem. And cedar berries and huckleberries and things like that, or huckleberry teas, are all good for regulating insulin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think that's about it.
You got it all in?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure?
Okay. Yes. That's it. So.
That's so much.
Okay, we've got it.
Yet it's simple. What you're saying to us is eat, but eat right, and eat regularly, and eat consistently. And stop worrying about skipping meals to lose weight because you're doing the reverse. And it just completely alters, you exacerbate things when you do it that way.
Well, and I tell people all the time, you know what, if you get in your car and you drive up your hill, you're using what? Fuel. You're using gasoline. And food to our body is gasoline or fuel. So I have people who don't eat and they go and work out and they have no fuel to burn fat. So you must eat. The problem with most Americans is they A, don't eat enough, and B, they don't eat frequently enough. And what they do eat tends to be empty calorie foods like carbohydrates that are processed.
Well, it looks like the people are either great dancers out there or they're telling me to wrap it up. But as you know, we could talk forever because there's so much to learn. And I know if I'm learning it, you're learning it. So why don't you join me again? This is Kurt Hill with Health Exposure. My goodness, good show.
Good.
Good show. I really